Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk News. I'm your host, Leticia Remauro, and thank you for landing on our show. Today's October 27th, and NBC is still the worst news network that there is. So, what a day. How are you all doing? What do you want to talk about? I've got a couple of things up there to talk about, but what do you want to talk about? Hello, Francine. Good to have you with us. Um, I thought that we might start by talking about what's going on with the New York City mayor's race. Does everybody want to do that, or should I wait for others to join us? Got a lot of stuff is happening in that mayor's race. Stuff that's not, really great for Curtis Sliwa, but it's something that we had talked about before and the possibility of what was going to happen next. Hi, Susan Durama. How are you? So it looks like, oh, hello, Joe. Good to have you with us. Angela Rick is with us. Hi, I hope you're feeling good. I just got home from the Victory Rally where they were able to stop probably the largest lithium battery plant right on Victory Boulevard in Staten Island. Curtis was there, Scott Lebedo, and others. It made me think of you and all the rallies that you were part of. Oh, thank you, Angela. And I'm glad they finally were able to stop that battery plant. I know that Sam Parazola was on top of that right from the very, very beginning. Hello, Mama. Good to have you there or here with us. So we're going to talk about the government shutdown. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this whole mayor's race in New York. And we'll probably go on talking about it because it's important. It's important for the whole country, not just New York. And people are voting right now. Hello, Andrew Dorman. And, a lot of people are asking what they should do, who they should vote for. So I want to show you. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I could do this as a professional. Let's see. Okay, hold on. This is it. Share. And okay, let's see. Nope. That was wrong. Hold on. Where are you? There. Okay. So I don't know. Can you all see that? This is the poll. Who's ahead in the New York City mayor's race? And I want you to look at this first one, Suffolk University. This is the latest one that came out today, and it shows Curtis Sliwa losing points. If you notice, in the other polls, Curtis at his high was 19%. It was never higher than that. But he's now doing what we talked about. He is losing votes, and Cuomo is gaining votes. And what also I said we needed to watch out for was Cuomo taking votes from Mamdani. And look at what's going on here in the Victory Insights poll. Mamdani had 47, Cuomo had 29, Curtis had 16. We come to this poll today, and we've got Curtis at 11%. We still have Eric Adams taking 2%. We have Cuomo with 34%, and Mamdani losing ground at 44%. So the thing is, and you take a look, I mean, he was at 46%, 45%, 47%. The highest he ever was with the Beacon Research at 52%. I think that was a little bit outrageous. I think that was after Eric Adams got out. So what we see here is we've got about 9% that are still undecided. And I think that 9% is going to break towards Cuomo. And I think that the 2% for Adams is going to break towards Cuomo. And I think we're going to see Curtis losing even more votes than we see him losing now. So that's, it's important that, we understand polling. Now, polling is often wrong, right? I mean, the Ciccarelli race, gubernatorial race last time was, they had him 5 points down and he was neck and neck. Trump twice, they said he was not going to win. And of course he did. But in the New York City race, the problem is that we're talking, I think it's now 10-1, or it's at least 8-1. It might be 10-1 when you put Democrats and everything else against Republicans. And the Republican Party isn't that strong anymore in New York City. It's just not strong even in the state. I mean, better upstate and Long Island, and Westchester, but all of them, they've lost ground. I mean, the Republican Party has not been something that has been worked on in a lot of years. So people don't know it's an option, and if they do, they don't want that option. So yes, Cuomo is on row I all the way to the back. I get it. Difficult when you're so far away from you're not in a major party. But I would say, in historically speaking, I would put money on people, on conservative Democrats finding Andrew Cuomo on row I easier than them to deciding that they're going to vote for a Republican. Even Curtis, who wasn't always a Republican, is not a traditional Republican, and is not a Trump Republican, but still carries that Republican moniker. I would say that Jewish Democrats, Black Democrats, Hispanic Democrats would more likely vote for Cuomo on I than stopping at B and voting for Curtis. I could be totally wrong. I just don't think so. Hi, all right. I'm glad, Mickey. I'm so glad I got a chance to see you. I'm sorry I couldn't see you before you left. Today was a crazy day, and I had a lot of work to catch up on since my illness. Okay, be back in February. I can't wait to see you then. Hi, Gloria. Good to have you. So, I never count anybody out, and I never say to people, you're throwing away your vote. I won't. Because you have to vote your conscience, and you have to stand up for what you believe in. I think that just knowing all the information, and I've seen some crazy stuff out there, like Cuomo's working with Mamdani to split the vote and take the vote away from Curtis, and that's not likely. And this is coming from Curtis's own people. I've heard, that if Cuomo gets out, Curtis gets all his votes. That's absolutely not likely. As a matter of fact, that's just wrong. That's not going to happen. Will he get some of Cuomo's votes? Sure. Because when you're polling at 11%, the chances are that there's another 5% of Republicans out there that are voting for Cuomo that will come back to you. But remember something. The reason that they show polls is because they want to influence people. People like to win. People like to vote for the winner. They don't like to vote for the loser. And the way that a lot of voters in blue states and in red states vote is they go down the line, right? They just go for whoever's on their party line or whoever is familiar to them. And while Curtis is familiar to a lot of people, I think he's familiar as a radio disc jockey and as a guardian angel. But I don't know how seriously people are taking him as a can you win candidate. And that matters in New York. In New York especially, is a very competitive place. Nobody wants to lose their vote. Thank you, Joe. I am feeling better, and it was really hairy for a little while. It was the worst pain I ever felt. Okay, so anyway, so that's the mayor's race. I would be very interested to hear what you guys have to say. It said because Cuomo is a horrible crook and Mamdani is a communist and Curtis is the best candidate. I think Curtis is a good guy. That's what I think. I think Curtis is a good guy. I think that in terms of who can run the city, Mamdani has zero experience. Zero. Even as an assemblyman, he never introduced a piece of legislation. He didn't understand the job. He actually, as an assemblyman, was an activist. He his voting record is horrible, and he never introduced a bill. His goal was to come out of nowhere like AOC. He's always been a socialist Democrat and part of the DSA. And he was next on their roster to throw in and see if they could get elected. They got him elected to the assembly a couple of years ago, and bam, here he is running for New York City mayor. Very similar to Obama, who was thrown in no other elected office, and he becomes a United States senator, his first go out. And 2 years later becomes the president of the United States. Shit like that doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen unless there is some sort of cabal around you to make it happen. So he is the least qualified candidate. Curtis is, I'm sorry, I love him. He is not qualified to run a $125 billion budget. Tell me one thing he has done that makes you believe that he can balance a budget, work with the city council. Just tell me. I'm willing to listen, but as I know government, I can't see how he does it. Mostly because he admits he's broke. He lives hand to mouth. He's broke. His main focus is animal rights. Hello, Maisie. Good to have you with us. So I'm interested, Angela. Tell me, share with me, because I respect your opinion. What makes you believe that Curtis is more qualified than Cuomo to run the city? Cuomo was doing an okay job running the state for a while, and then he went off the deep end like the rest of the Democrats. Do I think he should be disqualified from running because of what he did with COVID and with the state, and showing us that he's easily influenced by his party or by these socialists? Well, I have to tell you something. I don't envy anybody there because I don't know how I would vote. I mean, I probably would hold my nose and vote for Cuomo. Only because I think that on the second iteration, he's going to owe a lot to a lot of people, and they're not going to be liberal Democrats. You're going to see a lot of conservatives and business people involved in who he owes. So he's going to have to change his way. And I think that this is a vengeance tour too. So I think that might be helpful to the people of New York City. Hello, Peter. How are you? I mean, the one thing that Andrew wants more than anything, and you've seen it with Chris Cuomo, how they swung back, but he swung to the way right middle or middle right. They were raised by a Blue Dog Democrat, and their family honor is very important to them. And I think that when Cuomo saw that no matter how much he tap danced to the DSA's tune, that they still turned on him, that made him and his brother open their eyes and return to the principles that their father held and that they were raised with. Curtis may not have all the qualifications, but smart people will get good people under them to help him. I'm sorry, I just can't stand the other two candidates. It breaks my heart to see the city going downhill. That's a good point. It's a good point, Angela. Very, very good point. And I think that if Curtis does win, it would be great if he got some other people underneath him. But we saw that happen with Trump in 2016. And we saw how that turned out. That became a fiasco because Trump knew what he was doing as a businessman, but didn't understand Washington. And look at what they did to him. You don't always get that second chance like Trump got. And I don't know that this is on the job training. This is one of those things where I would want on the job training. But if I could see one person who was standing beside Curtis, like Joe Borelli, I'm trying to think of, some of the great people like Mike, Jim Molinaro, great borough president. If I saw people standing behind him like that, who he's already naming in spots, then I would say that would have been a smart move. He didn't do that. And people asked him, and he didn't do that. He didn't say who his cabinet would have been, and he should have, because he needed that. But that's a really good point, Angela. Hi, Tony. Good to have you. Mario is probably rolling in his grave. He's definitely rolling in his grave to see what his boys became. But I think they snapped back. I do. Can't vote for Cuomo. He's a liar. He's just as bad as Mamdani. I don't think he's just as bad, but I get it. I get, that you can't vote for him. Curtis will win, and he will be awesome. Yeah. Sal, from your mouth to God's ears. Polls are saying otherwise. I don't know if you were here a little while ago when I showed the poll, but if you look in the New York Times, you'll see the latest poll. What's happening is exactly what I had said would have to happen, either for Curtis or for Cuomo. That the candidate would have to start pulling votes from Mamdani and then pulling votes from the other candidate in the race. That's what Curtis needed. Curtis needed to start to rise in the polls, pull votes from Cuomo, and pull votes from Mamdani in order for me to believe that he had a shot at winning. And I thought that was a possibility for either him or Adams or Cuomo at this stage. And it's not Curtis that's doing that. It is Cuomo that's doing that. He is now closing the gap between him and Mamdani to 10%. There's still 9% undecided. 2% is still going to Eric Adams, and Curtis has lost 5 points, and he's down to 11%, which is obvious that was going to happen because these are Republicans that are now voting for Cuomo. They moved over and they're voting for Cuomo. I would love to believe that Curtis is going to win. I could only read numbers, and I could only the years of experience that I have, in this field. I want to be proven wrong. So prove me wrong. If you're a Curtis person, go out there and vote for him. You could always move if Mamdani gets in. That's the truth. Polls say Trump was never going to win. You're correct. But there was a difference between the polls for Trump and the polls for Curtis. The difference is Trump had a country that was more conservative than Democrat. Curtis is in a city where it's 10-1 Democrat. So you have to understand that is the important difference between Trump and Trump's races and the mayoral race, is that Trump had to win a country, and he had to win it state by state. And the country is, at the time that he ran in 2016, it was more conservative than it was liberal. And so that's how he beat the polls. That's how he beat it the second time too. But we're not talking about a balanced situation in New York City. We're talking that a Republican has it's 10-1 odds for a Republican, because you have at least 8-1 difference in the Democratic registration, and then you have all of the blanks. And the city is the city council is mostly Democrat, and the state assembly and the state senate is run by Democrats. And the state is blue. It's as blue as you could be. Trump got close. He got to 46%, and that was Trump. All right, so Trump got to 46% in the state, spending the money that he spent, and him being Trump. Where's Curtis's path to that in New York City being Curtis Lewa and not Donald Trump, and actually being an anti-Trumper? That's all I know. Who knows New York better than Curtis? Knowing it does not translate into votes. That's the whole thing. It doesn't translate into votes. As you know, Leticia, I'm working at the headquarters. Wait, hold on. And I've made thousands of phone calls, and the biggest issue I get from people is they want to vote for Curtis, but feel that it is a wasted vote and they should vote for Cuomo, and they're torn. So to be honest with you, my answer to them is vote with your heart. That's my answer to it, Angela. I hope that some way de Blasio got in will work for Cuomo. The old Italians voted for the man with the vowel at the end of his name. I do wish Curtis would win, though. Yeah, I do too. I wish I wish Curtis had called me and others of us who helped him on the first campaign, where he got 28%, and maybe talked a little bit to us, but he didn't. What happened is he shut a lot of people out, a lot of people who were trusted advisors. He didn't shut me out. He still texts me once in a while. I told him early on he needed to get out. And that was a conversation between me and him because I saw the writing on the wall. But I said to him, if you're going to stay into this thing, then you better show people how you're going to run this city. And he didn't. He never did. He never said, I'm going to have Joe Borelli as my first deputy mayor, and I'm going to have, Scott Lebedo as my, whatever, historian and art director, DOT. He didn't name the people he was going to entrust the city with. He never named those people. So I don't know how. He gets past that. He just kept pushing on. Every time I said anything, he shut me down. And I think he shuts down a lot of people. My heartbreak is going to come, and I told him this, is that if Mamdani wins, because he stayed in, they will blame him for the rest of his life. And the man who is Mr. New York will be a pariah. Well, thank you, Angela. You taught me well too. You kept me in line. Dem split votes with Cuomo and Mamdani, and Curtis gets in. That's how I'm hoping it plays. It's not going to amazing. It doesn't work that way. The Dems are 8-1. So Dem to Republican, 8-1. Add the independents, 10-1. Okay, so now if it's 10-1, then Curtis needs to have 34%. Right? It doesn't work that way. It's not coming up that way. It's coming up at Cuomo at 44%, 34%, Mamdani at 44%, Curtis 11%, 9% undecided. No, it's when they're factoring that in, they're factoring the people who do vote. About 1 million to 1.5 million people will vote in this election, probably closer to 1.5 million because they're so afraid of Mamdani. So you might have a higher turnout than you did in the last election with de Blasio, and with Adams and Curtis, which was about 1 million, just about 1 million. 1.5 million is what I'm predicting will come out to vote. But the ratio is still the same, 10-1. If every Republican votes for Curtis, the most he gets is 16%. It's the most he gets. And every Republican isn't voting for Curtis. Some independents are voting for Curtis, conservatives. He's not even their candidate. He wouldn't take their line. So, you've got it. This is numbers. This is not what's in your heart. This is numbers. And that's what voting is. It's numbers, right? It's percentages. And you have to say to yourself, what would make a Democrat come over to Curtis? What would make somebody who has spent their life being a Democrat through de Blasio, through Adams, through Bloomberg, through everything, what would make them vote for Curtis rather than Cuomo? I guess blue will vote blue. Most of the times, yeah. And here's the thing: the old Italian, Democrats. I think Tony was talking about. Tony was saying the old Italian blue dog Democrats that crossed the lines. They're gone. They're gone. They left. 2 million people left New York. They're now my neighbors in South Carolina. I'm one of them, right? The old Italian Democrat, Republican my whole life. But, so who do you have left? You have a lot of transients left who have come from other cities because they weren't accepted in their community, because they were gay, they were dancers, they were artists, they went to school here, and they decided to stay here. They were in finance. They're construction workers, or they're in the construction industry, union people. How many union endorsements does Curtis have? fear of communism, and many have not forgot COVID. You're right. Many have not forgot COVID, but they still voted Kathy Hochul in, right? The next time around. So if you're saying that they were pissed at Cuomo for COVID, so when he got thrown out, they showed them that they were pissed at what happened with COVID by reelecting Kathy Hochul, because she just carried on the same lockdowns that Cuomo had. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's, there's a lot of elections in between the time that, well, not a lot, but several elections in between the time that Cuomo was ousted and now. And one of those re-elections was Kathy Hochul. Kathy was installed and then she was reelected. I knew then, and I said it then, we have until 2026, and then Staten Island's going to be Democrat too. It's just the way it is going. There's nobody and no party to stop the socialist movement. There's just not. There's not. So, we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. All right. So I think that we spent enough time on the mayor's race, but I just wanted to quickly, talk to you about the government lockdowns. So let's see. All right. Here's what's going on. Well, let me play you this clip.
Democrats rejected a 12th stopgap funding bill by Republicans to end the government shutdown, now stretching into its 23rd day. Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman broke ranks and voted to reopen the government. He says he supports Republicans using the so-called nuclear option to override the Senate filibuster and only require a simple majority to pass the bill.
I am now fighting to opening because of the 2 million Pennsylvanians that are on SNAP, and those funds are running out. 2 million people in Pennsylvania depend on this to feed themselves and their family.
SNAP benefits expire in 1 week if a deal is not reached. Democrats want to negotiate a compromise before reopening the government. Republicans want to reopen the government first and then negotiate specifics.
Okay, so that was a couple of days ago, last week. The Democrats, voted no to paying bills, to paying essential workers, such as air traffic controllers and the military, and our law enforcement, and some other important personnel. So the interesting thing is that this Democrat shutdown, and it is a Democrat shutdown. And just to be clear, yes, the Republicans are in control of the House and the Republicans are in control of the Senate. But the difference is, in the House, you just need a simple majority to be able to pass a budget bill. In the Senate, you need 60 votes. And we only have, I think it's 52 in the Senate. Fetterman is coming over, and 2 independents are voting with the Republicans on this, which brings it to 55. So we need 5 Democrats to come over to pass a budget bill. That is for a budget bill in the Senate. So the Republicans have the majority in the Senate. We have the leader, but we don't have control of the Senate. But here's the wicked thing, is that Congress, the people who have shut us down, are all getting paid. And here's why. And here's their salaries, right? The most members earn $174,000 annually. The speaker earns $223,500, and party leaders earn $193,400. But the Constitution, Article 1, Section 6 of the U.S. Constitution, mandates that members shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. The 27th Amendment further protects this by preventing any law changing congressional pay from taking effect until after the next election, blocking quick reforms during a shutdown. So they are all collecting. Their staff can't collect. They have to be furloughed, just like active duty military and essential personnel. So that means that they will get paid at a later date. But they can donate or defer or not take their pay. And there are 30 people as of October 13th who are not taking pay. 20 Republicans and 10 Democrats. And here they are. In the Senate, it's Adam Kim, Democrat, Ashley Moody, Republican, Lindsey Graham, Republican, and Ron Johnson, Republican. In the House, Seth Moulton, Democrat, Tom Keene Jr., Republican, Amy Berra, Democrat, Jody Arrington, Republican, Zach Noon, Republican, Ashley Hinson, Republican, Marionette Miller Meeks, Republican, Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican, Janelle Bynum, Democrat, Juan Siscamana, Republican. And let me see, what is that one? Yeah. And here is Nikki Budinsky, Democrat, Lloyd Smucker, Republican, Scott Perry, Republican, John Joyce, Republican, Eugene Vindman, Democrat, Gus Bilarkis, Republican, Ron Estes, Republican, Rob Bresnahan Jr., Republican, Tony Weed, Republican, Maggie Goodlander, Democrat, and then finally Henry Cuellar, Democrat, Morgan McGreevy, Democrat, Brett Guthrie, Republican, Nancy Mace, Republican, Tom Barrett, Republican. Notice Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, not on that list. So if they have said that they've deferred their pay, then they've only done it for this week. These elected officials had deferred their pay from the time of the shutdown. And isn't it interesting that the Democrats shut down the government, but it's the Republicans, majority Republicans, 2-1, who are deferring their pay. So the question is, should a bill be passed to pay anybody? If this shutdown if the Democrats are digging in their heels and refusing, basically they're holding Republicans hostage. They have a clean CR. There's no Lulu's in it. There's no pork in it. It's the same CR that they passed last time under Biden, same CR, and the Democrats have decided that they're not going to pass it. Should their programs be funded? Should anybody be paid? If the American people are going to suffer, should anybody be paid? I'm interested. Let's go back to, if the numbers are right and Curtis doesn't win, our only hope is that Elise Stefanik will become New York governor and save us. Well, you're going to have to show me how that's going to happen, Angela, because if people are not going to try to save New York City against a announced Democrat socialist, then why would they suddenly decide to have a come to Jesus moment and vote for a Republican governor? I think more likely they'll leave. Anybody with common sense is going to leave before they get a chance to vote for Elise Stefanik. But I do think Elise Stefanik is the right choice. I think Kathy Hochul was fixed, and I don't trust the election system, says Tony. I agree. Good show. Oh, thank you, Andrew Dorman. They are blaming the Republicans. Yes, of course they're going to blame the Republicans. They always do. But I just, the facts are the facts. The Republicans do not have 60 members in the Senate. They just don't. New York City was Democrat and Giuliani got it. Where were that many more Republicans? There was, at the time, it was 4-1. It was 4-1. And Giuliani ran as a Republican liberal. He had the liberal line. There were many more organized parties. And yeah, that's when there were many Italian Democrats, old-time Italian Democrats from Brooklyn and Rockville Center and Long Island, and it was the city, Brooklyn and Queens. As a matter of fact, the Queens had Republican city council members, lots of them, and the Senate was still Republican, the state Senate. So it was really different back then, Maisie. Really different. That was a long, long time ago. Maybe if they find them every day, they would have opened up already. That's good. And maybe we need to do that, push for a a bill from our Congress members and our senators that they can't do that anymore. That the American people should not suffer because they can't do their job. I'm happy today. Hear you're feeling better, and I made it tonight. Thank you, and have a good night. Thank you, Susan DeRema. I'm happy you're happy, and I do feel much better. Okay, so I know that for the Curtis Sliwa fans, I was not a breath of fresh air tonight, but I want everybody to be prepared, and I want, if you know anybody who's going to sit this out, put it this way. If you're voting for Curtis Sliwa and everybody you know is voting for Curtis Sliwa, then make sure that when you go to the polls, you don't go to the polls with one person or two person or 10 people. You go to the polls with bus fills, and make sure that everybody gets out to vote now. You know, do your part. And I know Angela's doing her part, but you can't sit home and say, me and my husband are going to vote, or me and my wife are going to vote, and that's it. You have to shake the tree and make sure that all the people that you know that bitch and complain get out there and vote for Curtis Sliwa. Then maybe there's a chance. It's a long shot, but I always say, you never know when the sun and the moon and the stars are going to align. Maybe they'll align this time. I'm not sure. I hope so. I'm sorry, Maisie. I didn't mean to upset you, but we've got to face facts, right? Don't throw up. Put your sneakers on and start knocking on doors. Every door in your neighborhood, especially if you live in Staten Island. Everybody in Staten Island has to come out to vote. There are a lot of registered voters. I want to see 70% of Staten Island turn out for Curtis. Let's see. Let's see if all the Republicans can actually come out. That's the only way to save New York, right? So I'm not saying change your candidate. I'm saying that your candidate, Curtis, is a very, 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 very long shot. So change it. You've got how many days? You've got 8 days, 9 days. Get out there and get people to vote every single day. All right. Love you all. Sorry if I upset you, but you're always going to get the truth from me. Love you all, and I will see you tomorrow.